sliders, just like Eternal, we gave you a ton of options to turn things off, is that it is a work in progress. And so that content is actually several months old that you saw in the gameplay trailers, and they're actually much more polished now and a little bit more subtle. I would agree. They're a little opaque, a little intense. Basically they're just like the stagger highlights of the glory kill system of 2016 in Eternal. Only instead of the characters flashing, full body with an outline like they were in 2016 in Eternal, this time you get that circle. And what that circle does, one thing we never really did well in the last games, is letting you know how close they are to coming out of that staggered state. So as the circle shrinks, it lets you know that they're almost done with their falter or their stagger. If you remember with the Marauder, we had the stars above his head to let you know how long he was going to be staggered for, but that didn't really tell you when it was going to be over. So if you pay attention to the circles as they shrink, that'll let you know how much time you have until you can run over there and take that guy out. And it's a system that really works. So just trust us. It works. Like everything else, you got to get used to it. And if you want to turn it off, you can turn it off.
Welcome to the Arcade Futures channel, where we talk about Doom and things FPS. We just saw Hugo Martin break down the purple circle and some of the UI in Doom, the Dark Ages. And this is a really important video and a very interesting video for a few reasons, right? So first of all, they kind of explain what the purple circle is, and they kind of read a fan comment from one of the people. And this is the only clip I believe they released, and I believe they only released this video on YouTube. So it's very interesting kind of strategy to kind of, address some of the concerns surrounding the UI in a playful manner, and at the same time kind of point out the ridiculousness of some of the criticism about Doom Eternal. And they also mention kind of what I've talked about in a previous video. You could check that out on the channel, that Doom consistently shows older builds of the game before they officially release it. So whatever we see in the trailers is not going to be the full game. And Hugo Martin is the creative director of Doom the Dark Ages, and he talks about that. He says, hey, that's an old build of the game. It actually looks a lot better than that. And of course we have to believe that's almost 100% certain, right? That the game is going to look totally different or largely different and a lot better than what we see in the videos, right? And the comment is right that the fan made is like, oh, look, another purple circle. Did Doom somehow become this sort of do what the circle tells you to do game? Which is a weird comment, but if we read between the lines here of kind of what that user is probably suggesting, a lot of music games or quick time events in games, they kind of have that, you see a cue, time for you to do something because that cue is there, right? And some people may think that that is a little bit too choreographed, right? Whereas in previous games, glory kills for enemies on Doom 2016, Doom Eternal, the enemies just blink really fast, right? That lets you know, okay, it's time for me to perform our glory kill. But as Hugo Martin explains in this clip, he says it's hard to tell how much time you actually have left. And when the purple circle actually gets smaller, then that lets you know that you're kind of running out of time and that you need to perform the glory kill before the time runs out and the enemy comes out of the dizzy state. And this is super interesting, right? Because I did find actually glory kills were a little bit hard to tell how much time you had left on them. They weren't impossible to tell, depending on the game. But to add this change in there where it's like this purple circle shrinking, I think is a really good addition to the game, a really good way to kind of switch things up. And you have the ability to change likely the opaqueness of it in the settings, and you'll definitely most likely be able to change the settings in the sliders, right? Like there's always a lot of customizability in the UI in Doom games, and I think this game will allow you to have that sort of customizability as well, right? But this is a really interesting video because it kind of came out of nowhere on their Instagram channels, I believe. And they just read a really kind of strange and critical comment, and he explains that the game is basically in its older build and that the game will, look a lot better, and they explain some of the logic behind the UI changes. And I think this is really, really a good idea and a unique way to kind of market the game while addressing some of the criticism, right? Is to basically say like, hey, like, this game, Doom Eternal wasn't necessarily perfect. Doom 2016 wasn't perfect. We're trying to innovate and evolve the game. And I think it sort of leans very well into what Doom is about, like from a gameplay perspective. Like Doom is about direct action, direct sort of options, direct combat, direct violence, right? It's about being very direct, and they are in a way also being very direct about how this game is being developed, and they're also direct in their design philosophy from what I can tell, in that the sense that they're always trying to evolve the game forward. They're trying to figure out ways that they can still make it Doom, still make it action packed, still make it aggressive and violent, but at the same time see if there's a way that we can better communicate the game's design to the player, so that the player can actually fall in love with the design of the game and the development team's philosophy behind the game. And I think it's a really good strategy, because if the game is successful and the game's design and gameplay loop is masterful as previous games have been, then people will be more interested to make content for it for years and years to come. Because if the game doesn't have multiplayer, which this game doesn't, it's going to be harder for people to find reasons to just pick up the campaign and drop it. Now, what I'm interested in is, what other modes will they have besides the campaign? Will it only be new game, save files, and continue, and your options? Or will there be a couple other modes to kind of switch things up? They haven't mentioned them. The only thing that they've said is that there will not be a multiplayer. But I'm curious, will there be a horde mode? Will there be like a time attack mode or some arcade modes in the game? Will there be some customizability, some map builders? Will there be customizability for the Doom guy? There's likely going to be microtransactions to some capacity, because that allows the game to make money for years to come. But in what realm, right? We've seen a lot of great games, they've traditionally not had microtransactions, but in their latest installment in 2024, 2025, they started having microtransactions in the game, and it sort of fundamentally changes the way we see the game and engage with the game and interact with the game, and they're almost like shoehorned into the game because they have to have them in some kind of way. Like, to imagine a new Doom game with no microtransactions, or at least DLC, would be ludicrous, right? DLC has been a part of gaming for a long time. This game is releasing on Xbox. It's probably going to have some DLC and microtransactions and stuff in the store. Now, will that just be in the form of a new chapter, a couple new chapters, or will there be, like in Doom Eternal, cosmetics and things to also buy? Will there be other modes and other guns? What will be the full expansion of the game? And they haven't talked about that much yet. They've instead decided to talk about the UI and the technical aspects of the game's development. I think it's a good strategy, but I'm really, really interested to see what else the game is going to offer. Is it going to be pure campaign and nothing else, and no cosmetics and no customizability and things that you can buy in the Doom shop? That is something that's really interesting to me. What do you think? Do you think that this change in the glory kill system is a good idea or a bad idea? Let me know in the comments what you think. Thank you for watching RK Futures, and definitely make sure you're subscribed, because we got more videos about Doom coming soon.